Holy Ghost, Batman, by Amorloran. Chapter 8, The Calm Before the Glam. Then he stepped off the train at Gotham Central with Jazz and Sam flanking him, his travel bag slung over one shoulder while they dragged much bigger suitcases. The station's industrial lights gave everything a washed-out glow, but the city's relentless hum felt almost grounding compared to the quiet tension he'd felt behind in Amity Park. Tim was easy to spot, leaning against a pillar with a coffee in one hand. He looked casual in the dark jacket and jeans, though Danny knew from experience there was nothing casual about the way Tim scanned the crowd. "Hey," Tim greeted, pushing off the pillar, his eyes flickering at Jazz, familiar, and then to Sam, lingering for just a beat longer as recognition set in. Then he caught it and smirked. "Tim, this is Sam Manson," he said, gesturing between them. "You met once, kinda, at the Dairy Queen in Springfield. You probably didn't know then, but she's my girlfriend." Sam smiled politely, offering a small wave. "Nice to officially meet you." "And you'll have met Jazz," Danny continued. "But she came along as a sort of chapter 1, I guess." "Which means," Jazz cut in with a weary smile, "I'm here to make sure neither of them forgets to eat or sleep while we're here." Tim's mouth quirked, but he didn't push for details. "In that case," he said, "I thought you might appreciate a place to decompress before jumping into anything. I booked you a luxury suite at the Drake Tower Hotel. You will have all the space you need." Jazz's eyebrows lifted, impressed. Sam looked equally pleased, though she kept her tone casual. "That's actually really thoughtful." "Perks of knowing the owner," Tim replied lightly, a hint of a tease in his tone. Gesturing towards the waiting car, Tim introduced the driver, an older British man, as Alfred. They didn't yet notice the significance of that introduction, but they lightly accepted the warm hand towels he directed them to in the back of Tim's limo. The drive through Gotham was quiet, broken only by the occasional police sirens or the steel rattle of an elevated train overhead. Tim didn't press for conversation, but Annie could feel him quietly taking stock of the three of them, reading body language, watching for details, and he never missed. When they reached the hotel, Tim showed them up to the suite personally. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the Gotham skyline, and the soft gold lighting gave the space an almost unreal warmth. "I will check in tomorrow," Tim said, as he handed Danny the key card. "For now, settle in. Order room service. You'll have got the whole place to yourselves." Danny nodded, genuinely grateful. "Thanks, Tim. Any time," Tim replied, and then he was gone, leaving them to breathe easier for the first time in days. The soft click of the door, shutting behind them, left the room filled with nothing but the quiet hum of the city outside. Gotham's skyline glittered beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, the spires of downtown glowing gold and white against the dark. Danny dropped his bag onto the wide, low-backed couch and rolled his shoulders, taking in the view. "Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Tim might have just spoiled me for any other trip here." Sam went towards the window, fingers tracing the glass as she looked down at the city. "It's actually gorgeous from up here," she said, her tone somewhat between awe and surprise. "Almost makes you forget about the smell at street level." Danny chuckled, walking over to join her. "Almost." Behind them, Jazz was already inspecting the suit with the critical eye of someone determined to keep both of them in one piece. She opened the fridge, stocked, checked the bedroom, luxury linens, blacked-out curtains, looked into the bathroom, and actually whistled at the size of the soaking tub. "I don't know what you did to get Tim to do this," Jazz said, turning back to them, "but I approve. And I will be making sure you both eat something before collapsing in exhaustion." Sam smirked over her shoulder. "You're not children, Jazz. You're my little brother's girlfriend." Jazz counted smoothly, So yes, you kind of are. Danny flopped onto the couch, sprawling like he owned the place. For the chapter 1, you sound suspiciously like Mom right now. Someone has to, Jas said, moving to sit in one of the plush armchairs across from him. Sam joined Danny on the couch, leaning into his side. So what's the plan tonight? Stay in and enjoy the ridiculously fancy room? Or go out and let Jas follow us from a safe distance with binoculars? Jas raised an eyebrow. Don't tempt me. Daniel laughed, pulling Sam closer. I say we start with the room service. Tim told us to use it, and I fully intend to bankrupt him with steak and desserts. Jas rolled her eyes, but she was smiling as she reached for the in-room phone. Fine, but I'm ordering vegetables. You need them. As she called down, Sam looked up at Danny, her smirk softening with something warmer. I think I like it here. Danny glanced at the skyline again. Yeah, he said quietly. Me too. Danny had just finished ordering an indecently large slice of cheesecake when a knock came at the suite door. Jas, ever the cautious one, glanced at Danny and then crossed the room to answer. She opened it to find an old man in a pristine black suit standing in the hall, posture straight and expression as polished as the brim of the driver's cap in his hands. Good evening, he greeted smoothly, voice dripping in an unmistakable Polish British cadence. Master Timothy sends his regards. It appears he forgot to mention that he has invited you to dinner tomorrow evening at the Rain Manor to meet his family. Danny blinked, looking between Sam and Jas. He forgot? The man's polite smile didn't so much as twitch. Indeed, as such he wished to ensure you would be adequately attired for the occasion, and asked that I take down your measurements for the formal wear, to be delivered here by tomorrow afternoon. Sam straightened slightly, a spark of mischief in her eyes. And you're Alfred, right? Alfred Pennyworth, he replied, with a small bow. I'm the Wayne family's butler. Danny exchanged a quick look with Jas, before shrugging. Well, sure, I guess. But, I don't exactly know my size off the top of my head. Not to worry, Master Fenton, Alfred said, already producing a small tailor's tape from his inner jacket pocket, with the kind of grace that made the motion seem inevitable. If you will indulge me for just a moment, I can take the necessary measurements. Sam smirked as she stepped forward first, arms out, letting Alfred work with quick efficiency. Danny followed, still looking faintly overwhelmed by the suddenness of it all. Jas went last, muttering something about not expecting homework from a butler. Once finished, Alfred tucked the tape away and gave a small nod of satisfaction. Everything will be delivered promptly tomorrow. Master Timothy will expect you all at the manor at 6 o'clock sharp. Until then, I bid you a good evening. With that, he turned and departed, the sound of his measured footsteps fading down the hall. Then he shut the door and turned to Sam and Jas. So, no pressure, right? Sam grinned. It's just dinner, with Gotham's most famously complicated family. Jas folded her arms. I think I need dessert before I think about this too much. A few hours later, Danny leaned back on the edge of the hotel bed, one socked foot propped against the armrest of the sleek armchair. The suit was much fancier than he was used to, definitely not nasty burger budget, and every surface neither gleamed nor had thrown pillows that probably cost more than his entire closet back home. The faint hum of traffic filtered up through the double-glanced windows, but his attention was on the phone pressed to his ear. Dude, I'm the tech guy, Tucker whined through the speaker. Do you know how insulting it is that I'm not in Gotham right now, surrounded by billionaire-grade gadgets and morally grey weirdos? Danny laughed, kicking off the second sock. You say that like it's a vacation. You do remember I just met my biological parents for the first time last week, right? Yeah, but you didn't FaceTime me for the Espresso Blizzard moment. I missed comedy gold. I'm pretty sure Chaz recorded it, Danny said, grinning. You will get it. You will get your moment. He heard a muffled thud on Tucker's end, followed by a groan. I'm seriously getting FOMO. Can you just tell Tim I'm your emotional support best friend and need to be flown in immediately? I ever used that excuse for Jazz, Danny said. And Sam, you're at best my emotionally reckless third-tier emergency contact. Unfair, but accurate, Tucker conceded. I still can't believe you didn't smuggle me in a suitcase or a carry-on. I'm compact, Danny. Compact! Danny grinned, kicking off the other sock. You're also TSA red flag material and allergic to shellfish. There were too many risks. You wound me, Tucker said dramatically. Do you even understand the amount of life experience I'm missing right now? A luxury hotel in Gotham, a designer suit, Sam in a designer dress. This is my Olympics, bro. Danny laughed. Pretty sure Sam's the one taking gold in the barely tolerable luxury category. She made the dressed condenator cry by saying she preferred combat boots and emotional distance. That's my girl. Then he stood and wandered towards the window, looking out at the spires of Gotham's silhouette against the cloudy afternoon sky. Look, I will be home in a few days. Maybe next month we will visit together, and I let you poke around the tech stuff. With permission. Deal, Tucker said immediately, then added, Wait, define with permission. Danny laughed again, his nerves calming a little. It helped having this piece of home with him. Sarcastic, excitable, full of wild ideas, Tucker. Anyway, I gotta go soon, he said. The girls are getting picked up by Steph for some spa thing, nail salon. Something about preparing for dinner with the extended family. The Wayne family? Tucker said dramatically. As in Wayne? The actual money, Wayne? Apparently, Danny replied, grabbing the garment bag that had been hanging in the closet since this morning. Tim sent over tailored suits and dresses. He even included notes on color coordination and neckline. Creepy or considerate? Tucker asked. Danny shrugged. Little bit of both. You are related. Danny stretched and walked over to the window, looking out at the slate-gray city skyline. Look, it's not like this is normal for me either. Tim sent Tylers. Tylers! Who even has Tylers? People who named their hotels after themselves, apparently. Danny snorted. Point. Just then, the suit door opened and Shaz plopped her head in. Hey, car's downstairs. Sam's finished adjusting her betrayal of aesthetic principles and put it back on the hanger for tonight. Word of warning, I think she's starting to like it. Danny raised an eyebrow. She said that out loud? No, but she twirled in front of the mirror. That's basically a confession. Sam's finished her eyeliner. War paint. You good? Let Steph know I said thanks for setting it up. I will be here, probably trying not to have a full-blown identity crisis while alone in a Gotham penthouse. Jazz smirked. So a typical Thursday? Exactly. Danny nodded. Actually, she's not downstairs. Alfred came instead. Then he blinked. The butler guy? Jazz made a face. He prefers house manager. He's absurdly polite, like British movie polite. Apparently Stephanie's finished a call and will meet us at the saloon. Fancy, Danny said. She offered to send a helicopter. I told her we are not those guests. Danny chuckled. You packed your toothbrush in a sandwich bag. Jazz slipped him off playfully and disappeared from the doorway with a wave. And the door clicked shut again. Then he flopped back onto the bed, the phone still to his ear. You still there? Still here. Tucker was still grumbling. Alfred, really? Even the chauffeur is classy. He brought warm hand towels last night. Then he said, in March. That is outrageous. I will sneak you a souvenir bar of hotel soap. You better. Danny smiled, the sarcasm helping him keep his nerves in check. It helped to hear Tucker's voice, grounding familiar. You will be fine, man, Tucker added, more gently. Just breathe. Keep being yourself. Danny grinned. Thanks, Tuck. There was a pause. Then a quieter, more sincere voice came through. I'm proud of you, man, for doing this, for going. Danny felt a small lump rise in his throat. Yeah, me too. And try not to spill anything on the fancy shirt. I know your track record. No promises. As the call ended, then he placed the phone on the nightstand. He glanced at the garment bag hanging from the closet. His suit pressed and ready, black with a subtle grey trim. He walked over, unzipped it just a bit to peek inside, and looked at his own reflection in the full-length mirror. It was strange. This whole week had been strange, but good strange. For the first time in a while, he wasn't seeing someone caught between two lives, but someone trying to build one out of both. Not long ago, he was just Danny Fenton, local weirdo with a thing for ghost hunting tech. And now, he was still Danny, but the picture of who he was had gotten a lot bigger. He sat back on the edge of the bed, hands resting on his lap, and exhaled slowly. The girls were off to the saloon. He'd meet more family tonight, and somehow the world kept turning. Sam pulled Jazz to a stop outside the saloon. Okay, so what are we really doing here? Girl stuff? Don't you think it's a little, I don't know, demeaning? Stereotypical? Arms folded. Jazz gave Sam a blank look, her gaze sarcastically hovering over Sam's detailed makeup and dark fingernails. Sam blushed lightly and looked away. You know what I mean. Jazz sighed and unfurled her arms, putting a hand on the other girl's shoulder, as Sam looked back to her. Of course it is. But look at it this way. Your boyfriend just found out he is basically the grandson of Bruce Wayne, a billionaire. Your family is old money, enough to take that seriously. So you can get dolled up with me and tell your family you have it covered, or they will step in with a makeover you have no control over. Sam frowned at this point. She knew Sam was right, but she didn't like it. Fine. Better with you than that. Chas nodded and dragged the girl into the nail saloon. Inside was weirdly empty except for the technicians at their stations and the two women getting pedicures. One woman was deep green with eye-catching red hair, a shade darker than Jazz's own. The other was a shorter blonde woman with pale white skin, not like she was wearing makeup, but like her skin had been bleached. Her makeup itself was actually uniquely chaotic, her eyeshadow of each eye matching the dye in the ponytail on the opposite side of her head. The lady at the corner gave the girls a strained smile, glancing between them and the two women desperately. Clearly, she was trying to tell the suicidal girls to leave, but was too scared to say anything. Sam and Chas looked at each other, then at the two women, curiously. Sam felt vividly drawn to the green woman, like she should recognize her. Then, as the green woman turned her head, as if she felt the same draw, Sam knew who she was, and walked over to her. Pamela raised an eyebrow as the goth girl curtsied to her respectfully in a daze. Sam, for her part, was on autopilot as she spoke. May Queen. This drew Ivy's attention, and she let her mind slip into the green, standing in the burned ruins of the parliament of trees as undergrowth, the embodiment of the deceased parliament. Pamela raised an eyebrow at the undead plant god. And who are you supposed to be? Undergrowth loomed over Pamela. You know who I am. Daughter. Ivy rolled her eyes at this. Okay, Dad, explain it to me. Undergrowth sat on the burned-out stump as plants grew around him like a frown. I am the death of all things, the rebirth of nature. I am Undergrowth. Pamela formed her own chair without blinking. Yeah, that doesn't really tell me anything. You're kind of giving me the same vibe as Yggdrasil. He's dead, though. Undergrowth nodded in acquiescence. I was once known by this name. I was also known as Turo, Eman, Swamknocker, Bog, Venus, Ghost hiding in the rushes, and infinitely more. Pamela just looked at him in a deadpan stare. You're the parliament of trees, but dead. Yeah, sure. So why am I here? How are you even here? Shouldn't you be in the black? And who is that girl? Undergrowth huffed in lines. She is my avatar in the mortal realm. As you say, I'm dead, and a being of the black now. My alliances will always be the green. I left a seed of power within the girl. Pamela sighed dramatically. So what? You want me to train her, raise her, eat her? I really don't have time for your cryptic bullshit. Undergrowth waved her off her concern. It matters not, so long as the green is protected. Pamela rolled her eyes and fell back into her body to find Holly waving a hand in front of her face. You okay, babe? Pamela blinked, then looked at her girlfriend. I'm good. Just having a conversation. You good, kid? Jazz was also waving a hand in front of Sam, who plopped back to attention in confusion. Was I overshadowed just now? Jazz pulled her hand down and shrugged. It looked like it, but I guess the ghost left. Sam looked back at Pamela and suddenly had an empathy, growing excitement. I remember where I've seen you before. You're Dr. Leslie, the eco-protester. I've read so many of your books and articles. Pamela was ready for condemnation for a criminal persona, but this was a welcome surprise. She gave an awkward chuckle. Yeah, that's me. Much to the chagrin of any alma mater. Holly rolled her eyes. Oh, come off it, babe. No school of higher learning is going to drop our degrees after the fit Lex threw when Canada State tried after his first big arrest. Pamela snorted. You mean the $1 million lawsuit he drew at them? You still lost your rights to participate, though. Holly just shrugged. Jazz was watching all of this with fascination and came to her own empathy, illustrated by snapping her fingers. You're Dr. Holly Quinzel! I read your doctoral thesis for our class once. Holly grinned. Psychology major, huh? Yeah, they probably made that part of a section on what not to do, right? Jazz shook her head with a smile. No, it wasn't assigned. I cited your work for a paper on criminal justice reform. I admit the professional did do a double take at that. Holly crackled at this. So you girls obviously aren't Gotham natives. What brings you to around here? Jazz sat down in the manicure station next to Holly, and Sam sat next to her. We recently found out my brother was adopted. He got in contact with his bio parents, and they all agreed to meet his bio dad's family. Sam here is my brother's girlfriend. We are going with them to support my brother. They are kind of high maintenance, so we are getting dressed up for the event. Sam finished extracting her feet from her combat boots and commented, his bio mom and his aunt are supposed to meet us here soon with a family friend or two, apparently. Just then the doorbell rang, and as someone held open the door for a wheelchair, in rolled Barbara Gordon, followed by Stephanie Brown, Selena Kyle, Kate Kane, Harper Rowe, and Cassandra Chain. Everyone's eyes met, frozen in shock. Suddenly the silence was broken, and Pamela, followed by Holly, started laughing loudly. Pamela wiped away a tear. Okay, who was it? I have to hear the story. Her attention was clearly aimed at the older woman, but it was Stephanie who blushed and fidgeted before raising her hand. This actually stopped the laughter, as confusion set in. Jazz and Sam also looked at each other. Suddenly Jazz called out, "Kate?" Kate looked at her curiously. "Jazzy?"